Welcome into another live edition of the North Star Takes podcast, the Week 9 post-game edition after just another crushing, heartbreaking Vikings defeat once again to the Baltimore Ravens this week. And once again, just another game that felt like the Vikings should have had. They were up double digits. They had what was it, 17-3 actually, like right before the half.
Yep.
And then, it basically all just went downhill from there. So, I mean, you were able to watch the whole game today. What were your thoughts, I guess, throughout the entire game? Clearly, the offense got off to a fantastic start, and then they just go conservative again, and that's ultimately, I think, what ended up losing them the game. So, what were your thoughts as you were just watching it play out today?
It was just the same story, different week. This stuff continues to happen. We keep going down with these trends. The same old stuff happens. We don't adjust to anything, and we just keep making the same mistakes and keep finding ourselves in the same spots to not win games. Hence why, like usually when we're doing these post-game shows, I like to rock my Vikings gear as a supportive fan. No, I'm not doing that today.
Wow.
They don't deserve that fandom. Are you kidding me? Because that's just despicable. Because you can't just keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Because I get that obviously some things are going to happen. When it happens the first time, it's like, oh, then whatever, that just happens. But then it's like shame on you once you do that twice. But truthfully, I'm just sick of it because this is just, like I said, the same old story. Just different week. And you get like you said, we build a nice lead early. Kind of feels like that Arizona game. And then Zimmer's patented 2-minute defense comes through for us at the end of the first half and lets the Ravens come right down the field and score a touchdown and make it a one-score game. And then he almost gets bailed out really right out of the half when our game breaker, Kene Nwangu. I mean, this guy's got insane speed and saw it on full display today.
Yeah.
Took one to the house. First time the Vikings had a kick return touchdown since Cordero. So, like, I think this guy's been really good doing that, by the way. But I'm too focused on the negativity here. But he got bailed out and they made a 2-score game again. But yet, you think about it, that could have been like a 3-score game at that point. Then right out of the half, and you really take all the air out of the stadium.
Yeah, no kidding.
In essence. So, that's just crap. And then our offense does literally nothing until the very end of the game because it's like we have any sort of lead. Let's just pump the brakes, sit on our hands, and hope for the best and just bank on our defense that I don't know why we're banking on them. We're still letting these offenses go right up and down the field, albeit some games we keep them on the end zone. This one was certainly not one of those. So, it's just crap. And we do all these things this year that it's like teams who do these certain things in a game don't lose. And we found a way to lose. We had the 2 interceptions and we had the kick return touchdown and we didn't turn over the ball ourselves. You should never lose a game like that. That's just, that's unacceptable. And I'd also like to mention too, that I thought about this as well. This is probably the best day I've seen easily out of our rookie class because we had a lot of different flashes there because obviously, like I mentioned, the Kene kick return touchdown, but then you also had Cam Bynum making a nice play for an interception, nice catch. And honestly, of course, he doesn't take it out of the house. And then where we go 3-and-out, and then that's it.
Yep. I think we got a field goal out of that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So not taking advantage of the turnovers, that can't happen. So I don't know. And then how many times I could count them running on 2nd and long? I'm sick of it. That is the worst play call in the book because then you're living up continuously leaving your offense in these 3rd and long situations that the percentages do not favor you at all to get out of those very often. So then hence when you do that, then you're off the field very quick and then your defense is on the field the whole half. And then the Ravens ran 90 plays or something today. It was something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, so they ran 40 more plays than the Vikings did.
Yeah, exactly. And then your defense is going to be gassed because of that. So everything flows together. So when you do one thing wrong, it's like a domino effect. And then we got our QB1 making millions and millions and millions of dollars just to come out here and throw balls to the line of scrimmage and just get flustered at the first sign of trouble. Yep. What is that? So then once he sucks and the offense becomes stagnant, we have numerous 3-and-outs. And like I said, then your defense is on the field for way too long. You start giving a bunch of yards, a bunch of points, and I don't know. I'm all over the place with this, I guess. I've kind of gone on a lot of different tangents here. But, a long story short, I'm done with it. It's time to prepare for the future. This season obviously isn't it. Albeit, I still think there's a chance this team makes playoffs just because of what I've seen around the NFC. I mean, you watch the Saints come out here. For instance, they're holding one of the wild card spots. They win last week against a good Bucs team at home, even despite all the circumstances. Like, for instance, Trevor Siemian coming into the game. Then they come out here today in the same spot at home against a division team, against the Falcons, who are much worse, and they drop it. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, so yeah, you were kind of all over the place, and I loved
Yeah.
it. I love to hear the anger. I love the passion because this is refreshing to hear from you, honestly. Because after all the disappointing games we've had this season, even like the close Lions game we won, even after last week after Dallas, granted we did our show a day after, but this is
Yes.
the most fired up you've been so far, and that's great to see because man,
Yeah.
I'm kind of am I getting the hint here that you're ready to move on from this
I'm
coaching staff?
I'm ready to part with them. We're officially halfway through the season because we're through week 9 now in an 18-week season. So I think this is it. I don't see this getting much better. I think it get marginally better, but not enough better to the point where we should continue down this path we're on. And like you said at the top of this, I just wanted to bring this up. Forgot to say this, that you like all this heartbreaking, crushing defeat. I'm not even heartbroken anymore.
I'm
Like
not
this
either.
this doesn't really face me. I found myself today. It was much different vibe than when we lost that game in overtime against Cincinnati week 1, when I still had a lot of hope. These days, I'm like, no, we all knew this. Like everybody watches the Vikings every week. Probably knew this was happening today. We got up 2 touchdowns after that kick return touchdown. It's like, you just kind of wait for the other shoe to drop because you know the offense isn't going to do anything now. And then the Ravens offense, being as explosive it is, especially with the run game, is going to come right back into it. And then we're going to find ourselves in one of these nail biter situations that sometimes they're probably like a 50-50 coin flip as far as if you're going to win it or not. And
Mhm.
judging based off the fact that our QB1 again was just flustered, then your chances are much lower than that. So I'm
Yeah.
sick of it.
Yeah, so we'll just do a quick little reset here. As always, you can always leave your comments here on the live stream. We can pop those up on the screen. This week, we're going to try a little different wrinkle as well. If you feel like joining the show and venting your frustrations or saying your piece about the team, or even if you want to sprinkle some positivity onto this, because I'm guessing this will be a mostly negative show, you can email our email. We have it scrolling at the bottom of the screen there, and we'll pop you on here as well. So, but yeah, I agree with you. I think I, I'm not heartbroken by today at all. I expected it when we were up 17-3. I expected it. I'm like, you could just tell the way the offense was going in the first half that, oh, they're starting to go conservative again. Here we go. And sure enough, they did nothing the entire second half. And you're gonna have all the Kirk stands that come out of the woodwork and say, "Oh, Kirk played just fine today. Look at the line.
No,
You
no,
know,
no, no.
look at the defense. Couldn't get off the field." It's like Kirk Cousins literally didn't show up to play for basically 3 quarters of football. The first half of the first quarter, he was phenomenal. The last drive of the fourth quarter, he was great, and that was it. That
Yep.
was outside of those 3 drives, horrible. I mean,
That's
absolutely horrible. Why is he dumping it off to Tyler Conklin on key plays? Like there was a play, the deep bomb to CJ Ham, which ended up working out. God forbid. CJ Ham's a great player. He's a fullback.
yeah.
That play was a third. It was a third down. Justin Jefferson is running the route below CJ Ham. You can see Jefferson run up 10 yards, then he cuts over to the sideline. He is wide open for a first down.
Nope.
Kirk
Bombs
literally
away.
looks past him to throw a bomb to the fullback. Like once again, glad it worked out. It was a nice play, but I mean, come on, that's the epitome of the problem right there. And granted, I'd say most of the problem falls on Kubiak, who clearly is in over his head, has no idea what he's doing from a play calling standpoint. We get outside those scripted plays in the first quarter, and he's just a disaster. I mean, there's nothing going on upstairs when it comes to him. So, um, but yeah, Kirk just neglecting his best receivers. Yeah, okay, they might have 2 guys around them, but if they're open, throw them the freaking ball. Like
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson catches the bomb right off the bat in the beginning of the game, then he hardly sees the ball the rest of the game. It's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like, what are we
Totally
doing? Are we
agree.
really going to ride another star receiver out of town? Because I'm the more like as the weeks go by here, I get more and more concerned about that because we are not giving him the star treatment that he deserves. And Adam Thielen's a trooper. He'll probably never publicly come out and say anything, and he's getting to the later part of his career anyways. But good grief, that guy's still good. Give him the ball. KJ
Yeah.
Osborne had a couple clutch third down grabs today. Give him the ball. Like, no disrespect to Tyler Conklin and to CJ Ham and to freaking Luke Stalker, but give me a break. These are not your best players. And I'm as big of a Dalvin Cook guy as anybody. I have him on my fantasy team. I think he's a great player. I think he's one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the NFL when all
I
things are
love
cooking.
Dalvin.
And
Yeah.
I think he only had 18 rushes today.
Yeah,
It
which is
felt
fun. But
it
it
felt
felt
like
like a lot more.
more. And
Yeah.
the reason it feels like more is because they run him twice and it basically kills a drive. And if we
Yep.
can't sustain drives, we're not getting plays. And that's why all the stat totals are so low once again. So if it wasn't for the kick return touchdown, if it wasn't for a couple defensive turnovers as well, like our stats would probably be even worse, honestly, than what they are.
Oh yeah, think about it. How many of Kirk's yards he had? What does it say on the bottom here? Like 180 yards or something like that
Yeah,
today.
187, I think.
How many of those were just on those two plays? The 50-yard bomb to Jefferson on the first drive, and that CJ Ham third down pass up the
Right.
sideline. Like, what else did he really do today? Like you said, as far as I'm concerned, he's still checked out and still really just I don't know, sitting around on the bye week because
Mhm.
he certainly hasn't come out to play his first couple games after the bye. So I'm pretty disappointed in his effort, but I'm pretty disappointed in more so probably the coaching staff, just because, like I said, Clint obviously doesn't seem like a great play caller, but at the same time, I'm like, how much is Zim just lurking over his shoulder and be like, hey, we should run the
Yeah.
ball a lot, then run these stupid pitch plays that don't ever work, except for, I mean, granted, to Dalvin's credit, he got to the edge and they sealed it on the right side there for a 66-yard rush. How many times does that play get blown up in the backfield, especially when we do it with Madison? I don't understand that. I've never seen that with any other offense that literally has their quarterback turn around and pitch it straight back. Like it's not even right or left, but today it was literally straight, turns around, straight back to Madison. When does that ever work?
It
I've never
doesn't.
seen any other offense use that.
And I've mentioned this in our group chat too, but for some reason, whenever Cook is playing, Madison just looks completely inept.
Yeah,
And I don't know why that is. Like maybe Madison needs to get in a groove to really get going, and
maybe.
he's never going to have that when Cook's playing. But man, like it was getting to the point where I'm like, put Kenny and Wangu in on offense and see what the heck he can do. Because I mean, Madison isn't going to if they know a run is coming, Madison is not going to evade defenders and juke people out. Like sometimes Dalvin Cook can get away with that, and he's able to break one.
Mm-hmm.
Madison cannot do that. And even today, second half, they knew the run was coming the entire time, and they blew it up every single time. And it's getting to the point now where I'm really starting to question if this offensive line can really even run block anymore. Because yeah, the pass protection's gotten a little better, but then like you have a guy like Oli Udo in there who's like probably a true pass protector, and then like Mason Cole clearly is not the
Ooh,
run blocking center that Garrett Bradbury is either. So
yeah.
and I don't know. And then Darrisaw, like obviously he's a big dude that can move a little, but I feel like he's more of a pass blocker than a run blocker. So I'm starting to question whether or not this offensive line can really run block anymore. And then that coincides with the scheme and the whole mentality of this team of wanting to establish the run and run the crap out of the ball and feed Dalvin, feed Dalvin. I think there was a quote from Kubiak on Friday saying, "Yeah, we need to get Dalvin Cook the ball more." It's like what you need is to sustain drives, and then naturally you'll get him the ball more. But if you want to sustain drives, you got to throw the ball. Like it's plain and simple.
Yes, exactly. We shouldn't be running the ball in all these second and long situations and just trying to force it because that's not what you do. And our philosophy, we go so against the grain that you get to the point where, like, I keep beating the drum for it that we run the ball way too much in second and long, and then vice versa when we get in these third and shorts. Like, how many times we just go bombs away and throw the ball 30 yards down the field and be like, send a prayer and hope this gets complete when literally all you need to do is complete this 5 yard pass past the line of gain. And then how many times do we throw the ball in like a third and medium where it's like third and 7 or something? We throw the
Yep.
ball short of those sticks and it gets tackled immediately. Like
Yep.
that, I don't. The common sense there just seems to be lacking. Just total lack of awareness. Really, it's really frustrating, and I feel like the coaching staff is mostly to blame, but it's also on your quarterback too to be looking for guys beyond the line to gain, not these guys where they have to make a guy miss to get the first down. Like obviously that's going to happen sometimes, but we shouldn't be throwing that many balls to really notice it, like short of the line to gain on these third downs.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so do you think I mean, Kubiak has to be drawing up plays that have guys going for first down yardage, right? Like that has to be the case. So I would think it's Kirk finding, you know, the first guy he sees open, he's throwing the ball because he thinks pressure's coming or whatever, which is fine. Like you don't want to take a sack, but at the same time, like Jefferson and Thielen are so good, and even Osborne too. Like you could throw them a jump ball basically and have faith that they would come down with it.
Yeah.
So, and that's like not to compare Case and Kirk because Kirk is better than Case. We all know that.
Hmm.
It was the right move to move on from Case, but that's what Case Keenum would do. He would just throw the ball up, and Diggs would go get it, and Thielen would go get it. It's like he didn't care; he trusted him, and we have not seen that from Kirk in the 4 years that he's been here. So that's been really frustrating. I'm with you. I'm ready to move on. It's not working, man. And I appreciate what Zimmer's done for the team.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, he straightened things out when he came here in 2014 after how horrible we were. Uh, after the Leslie Frazier era. And yeah, it's time, man. And the way that the league is going now, you're going to want an offensive minded guy, a guy that truly leans into the playmakers we have, because there are so many teams right now in the NFL that would take the offense we have. Even with the offensive line not being amazing, being average probably, I think a lot of teams would take this offense.
Yeah, here's another problem I have with the coaching staff too, is that like, yeah, we probably don't have a great O-line, and a lot of these guys probably aren't great players in general. But at the same time, it's like, how many teams truly have 1 to 5 good offensive lines? Like, obviously, you can think of a few in there. Like Dallas, they usually have a pretty good offensive line, and Packers, they usually do too. But at the same time, like, how many teams get the most possible out of their guys and just
Right.
make it work? Even though it's not perfect, they get the most out of them, so it doesn't look like a disaster. Where us, it feels like we're not doing that. We're not maximizing the abilities of these guys that we have on the team. And at which point, it's like, it feels like every other game we're coming back here and be like, man, the offensive line was terrible. They're getting bullied. These guys are right Kirk slap every other play.
Mhm.
And it's like, where's the coaching there? I feel like that should just continue to happen. Like I said,
Correct.
probably the theme of this thing is that all the things, all of our downfalls before the bye week, they're still evident after the bye week. So what are the coaches doing? Clearly not making any adjustments. Are we just sitting on our hands and hope things change somehow, even though we're not doing anything different?
Yeah, and that's kind of the common theme I found between the Gophers and the Vikings. It's like neither team can really seem to adjust, whether it's like a halftime adjustment. Illinois came out and basically just shut the Gophers down in the first half and no offensive adjustments whatsoever. The Vikings get off to this hot start, and then they just go into conservative mode. Oh, let's put it in auto drive and we'll just cruise into the fourth quarter. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, the name of the game is outscoring your opponent. And in the NFL, you need to score a lot of points to win these days because you're going against guys like Lamar Jackson, who's won MVP in this league. He's a very special player. And while his throwing wasn't great in the first half, he turned it around in the second half and he was able to bring him back. So it's stuff like that. I mean, Zimmer's way of thinking they can win with ground and pound, play defense, hold the opponent to 17 points. It doesn't happen anymore. You can't do that anymore. And if he's really that stubborn and that naive that he's not willing to change his ways, even after the way they've started this season and that Cowboys loss on national television, he's not willing to change after that. I mean, it's game over for him. There is no coming back from that. He's not going to change. And I think the sooner you can fire him, the better, because we need some sort of spark here to at least have Jefferson have a strong end of the season, or Dalvin Cook. Give some of these guys a chance to have strong ends to the season so they can feel better about coming back here next year. Because I don't know, like I mentioned earlier, I'm worried about the Jefferson thing, and this can't be sitting right with him. Honestly, it wouldn't be sitting right with me if I was him, with how good he is, and he sees a guy like Jamar Chase getting the ball all the time in Cincinnati. Like, I don't know, I would be frustrated.
No, I totally agree. I feel like we talked about this before the season even started, that Jefferson is one of the premier receivers in this league already, even after a year. Like, he had 1,400 receiving yards last season. That's incredible. So I think you just got to look for him as much as possible, get him involved as much as possible. It's like the old adage goes back when Tice was talking about the Randy ratio, like you got to get Randy Moss so many
Yeah.
targets every game. I think the same could be applied for Jefferson for sure, just because I think that's how you win games in this league, is putting the ball in your best players' hands and making something happen, especially in the passing game with the way the NFL has evolved. Like we say, we're as big a Dalvin supporters as anybody, but at the same time, like, to keep drives alive, you're probably not going to continue to do that against the best teams with your run game.
Mhm.
So I think you definitely got to start with Jefferson out there in the pass game and just, I don't know, that's scheming up for him. Like, I realize you're going to play some good defenses, but at the same time, it's not like this one was that great of a defense today. They're
No.
one of the worst as far as pass defense goes. So I feel like you could have made a lot more happen than you did, albeit you had the 50-yard touchdown, but it's like we just went away from that after that. So I don't understand why we just come out slinging the ball all over the yard on the first drive, but then after that, it's like no more of this. Like, I don't understand the thought process behind that.
Well, and don't you always hear announcers talking about how, oh, they can always scheme the best receivers open? Like, the best receivers will always get open because their coaches will put them in a position to get open. And I feel like we had that back when Pat Shermer was the offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
He came up with special designs and stuff like that to get Diggs and Thielen wide open for Case Keenum. Stefanski was able to do it a little bit, I think, as well, a couple of years ago. And like, Clint Kubiak clearly is just not capable of scheming anything up. Like he cannot get anything going. The use of play action is way down this year, and when we do use it, it's completely obvious when we're doing it. We never throw the opponent, off rhythm or anything. It's just, oh yeah, run on first down. Okay, that didn't work. Now we'll throw a short pass, or like we throw a pass on first down out of a shotgun for absolutely no reason, and now we have to run on second and long because it was an incomplete on first down. Like just stuff like that. It makes zero sense. Your offense never gets in the flow of the game, and then you're toast because I don't know. Kirk, I think, is a creature of habit, and if he's not in rhythm, if he's not feeling it, you could just tell he was uncomfortable again all game today. He had zero fire in him. You never saw him get fired up like he did in the Dallas game, like he did in the Panthers game. You never saw that out of him today. So that was another thing I noticed as well. But I don't know, man. Just a completely disheartening end of game performance once again. And it's so clear and obvious to me why Mike Zimmer's record against winning teams is the way it is. And Kirk Cousins is a big chunk of that too. His record against winning teams is awful. Yeah, it's so obvious to me. I mean, those guys just absolutely crumble under the pressure.
Yeah, I know. I'm sick of playing this conservative brand of football because in the end it doesn't even win you the game because realistically, like we got done saying at the beginning of this recording is like, we have 2 interceptions, a kick return touchdown. We don't even turn over the ball ourselves, but here we sit. We still lose the game anyway. So it's like, what's the point in trying to force the issue then? Or what's the point in avoiding forcing the issue when really you could probably go for the jugular and probably put away the Ravens pretty quick in this game because, like you said, you don't allow that touchdown before the half, and then Ken A has a kick return touchdown out of it. Then all of a sudden you're up like 3 touchdowns or at the very least like 17 points, and then you're sitting in a really good spot on the road. And then at that point, then you can probably take it a little easy, but still do enough to keep drives alive. You just got to find a better balance because at this point we're just doing all these things wrong situationally, and that's easily going to lose you games because there's a thin margin between winning and losing this league.
Yeah, and that's kind of my problem is like we're halfway through the season now, basically 8 games out of a 17-game schedule.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't figured it out by this point, I just really don't think you're going to. And yeah, sure, Zimmer can fire Clint Kubiak. What good is that going to do? Who else is going to call offensive plays? There's 0 offensive coaches on the staff that have any sort of experience with play calling. And that's kind of the problem. Like they came into a prove-it year with an unproven play caller, the son of the guy who retired, who was our play caller last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nepotism at its finest. You got Zimmer's kid on the defensive side of the ball, and the defense sucks still. Gave up 500 yards of offense today. Granted, no Danielle Hunter, no Harrison Smith, no Michael Pierce. So
no Pat P.
Yeah, no Patrick Peterson. So we're down a few starters, and I thought guys like Cam Bynum, Barr made a nice interception today. Eric Kendrick's still flying all over the field. I didn't, people were kind of ripping Dantzler a little. I didn't think he played that bad, honestly. You didn't really notice him too much out there. So I thought some of the guys on defense played well, but really the defense was the victim of the offense just not doing anything today. But, once again, Zimmer wants it to come down to his defense, and he wants to trust his defense, and look what happens. You can't get a stop.
Yep, that's true. That's hit the nail on the head there. That just goes back into his philosophy that honestly, it could work when you have a defense like we had in 2017 where we're best of the best, then okay, let's lean on the defense. But clearly that's not the case this year. This year we're, I would say, as far as talent goes, we're probably a middle of the pack defense, maybe slightly above average, I would say, like at our best. But at the same time, I think that our offense is obviously better. It should be obvious to everybody that follows the Vikings or is within the Vikings organization. And that's why we got to take more chances offensively and really air it out because we run the ball way too much in bad spots, and then we throw the ball around the line of scrimmage way too much as well. So I'm done with that. I'm ready to get on to the next head coach because I think Zimmer's done there.
Yeah, so let's kind of transition to Kirk again here. Like, I don't want to keep making this a Kirk bashing because once again, no, he wasn't really the reason we lost the game, but he didn't help us win the game either. So
exactly,
he's having the exact kind of season we were hoping for, I think, where statistically he's putting up good numbers. He's making nice late game clutch drives to either tie the score or take the lead. He's doing that kind of stuff, which I think is going to be big if we're looking to trade him this offseason because if teams look around and see he put up good stats, he was able to lead some game-winning drives at the end of the game. I mean, somebody's going to want to trade for him because there's going to be a handful of teams once again looking for a quarterback, and not everyone's going to be able to draft one. So I think it's definitely going to be possible to get out from Kirk Cousins' $45 million cap hit next year. You'll be able to trade him. Yes, you'll need a quarterback, whether it's Kellen Mond, if you sign a bridge quarterback, if you draft a quarterback, whatever the situation may be, because it's going to be a rebuild. There's no way around it. It's not going to be a full rebuild, but it's going to be a rebuild because you'll fire your coach. You'll probably have a new quarterback. The GM, who knows? I mean, you could argue he could maybe be fired too. So I think it's definitely possible to move on from Kirk's contract, and I think he's honestly kind of having the season that we want him to have.
Yeah, I think you're kind of right there that he doesn't feel like a driving force for us in losing games. So, and like you said, he's statistically still playing pretty well. So you're kind of right that it's like he's doing good enough to be able to trade him, but not good enough to want for us to want him to stick around. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can turn him into a draft pick, unload all that money, and then see what we got these or see what we got Kellen Mond or whoever else we might bring in, and then you have a whole lot more cap space to spend money elsewhere on the roster. So I'm I'm ready to be done with Kirk too. It's the same old stuff. 4 years in a row, we hover around this 500 mark. We go on these cold streaks where lose a couple games. It's like you really want him gone, but then he comes out and has a nice 2 3 game stretch and uh, ends up just teeter tottering back and forth all the way through the season until we get to that basically 500 record at the end. That's just super frustrating because again, then it's not putting you in a great spot in the playoffs. If you even make the playoffs, he's
Mm-hmm.
only made it once with us, and then otherwise, you're just giving yourself the worst pick possible of all the teams that didn't make the playoffs. So,
Yeah, exactly. And at this point, I've convinced myself like the draft pick is not going to be good. Like we probably won't be picking top 10 unless we find a way to maybe lose these next 3 games and get to 3-8. Then at that point, we could maybe, have a 5 or 6 win season or something. But
mhm.
um, I think we're going to be picking middle of the first round again. And then it's like, well, then what do you do from there? So why was today like the breaking point for you though, when it comes to Zimmer?
I think today was just because we played, this was game number 8.
Yeah.
So, just about halfway. And I give him the slack of playing those first 6 games, going into the bye week, hoping you make adjustments. Come on the bye, maybe you're still putting things together. But then, especially, it's already questionable when we lose the backup quarterback. But then you come out this week, and again, the game is in your hands. You put together this really good first half all the way up until the very end of it, and then it just falls apart yet again. And you continuously see the same problems keep resurfacing, and clearly the coaches don't know what they're doing if we keep doing the same things wrong over and over and over again. So then at this point, like when I got to the point where I wasn't even surprised that we ended up losing this game in overtime. Like it's just like I said, like I keep saying, or I'm gonna keep saying, is that it's just the same story, different week. So that's why I'm like, if this is just gonna keep happening, then what are we doing? What are we even doing here?
Yeah, 100%. I was at that point after the Lions game just because it's the freaking Lions, and you should have lost that game. Like, yeah, it was great they came back and Kirk, quickly drove him down the field, and Greg Joseph nailed that kick. Like, that's great, but the Lions are 0-8 right now.
Yeah.
Like, they could be 1-7 with the one win being against us. I
And
mean, give me a break.
yeah, that could be a game we drop later on. You never know. But I think it's not bringing back up that point you made about us falling to 3-8 here. If we drop these next 3, I think it's very possible. Just because next week is against a pretty solid Chargers team. I don't think they're as good as everybody thought they were out of the gate,
Yep.
but at the same time, it's still a good team on the road. Then you're going to play the Packers, who, assuming Rodgers is back in the fold, then that's obviously going to be a very tough game even at home.
Yep.
And then after that, you're going to San Fran, where we don't really have a great history of winning out there. So then bada bing, bada boom. All of a sudden, if you lose those 3, then you're 3-8, and then you're really done. It's like now it's really time to start looking ahead to 2022 and beyond, and
Yeah.
then you maybe consider making a coaching change. I personally, if I were to circle a week where if Zimmer was going to get fired midseason, I don't think it's next week yet. I'd probably say after that Packers game. I think that's where it would really be deflating if we lost that game, especially in the same fashion that we've lost all these other games this year.
Yeah.
Like I think that would not sit right at all with ownership because it's your biggest game every season, playing the Packers at home.
Yep.
Big rivalry. If that went south, just like these other ones where you have it and then you don't, then I think that would probably be the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I agree with you. Getting embarrassed by the Packers, I mean, that would have to be it. And that would kind of be the story of Zim's career. He's beaten the Packers a couple times, but I think for the most part, Aaron Rodgers has owned him pretty good. So, um, yeah, that would be deflating, obviously, but I'm at the point where I can't really be deflated anymore. So,
No, I feel like that we can't lose here because either we're going to win games, and that's obviously more enjoyable to watch on Sundays, or we're going to lose, and then we're going to get a resolution to this whole mess and honestly have a pretty fun offseason talking about a new head coach and then probably a new quarterback, I would guess.
yeah, yeah. So, whew, I guess who is your ideal coaching candidate right now? I mean, we've kind of talked about this in a video a few weeks ago, but
Yeah.
are there anybody, halfway through the NFL season is there anybody really sticking out to you across the league that you would stand on the table and really want this guy to be your coach?
At this point, I don't think there's really a face or a name really that I'm like, I want that guy to be our next head coach. I think there's still too many unknowns as far as who truly are the best candidates coming in this next offseason.
Yeah.
And so I can't really say one way or another. No team's really like running away with it, and it's clearly obvious. It's like this one assistant coach, like for instance, some offensive coordinator, just a guru of a play caller that obviously is going to be a head coach in like short order. Where like I know we've talked about Bieniemy before, and I think he'd be kind of fun. But at the same time, like, does that concern you at all that he's involved with this Kansas City debacle that's been this year? Albeit they're 5-4 and they're right in the mix in their division and everything, but like that is not the same Kansas City Chiefs offense that we've become
Mhm.
accustomed to. So it's like, who's at fault there? I don't really know. But if you think Bieniemy has any part in that, is that really who you want to make your next head coach? So I think that's worth considering. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you also can't ignore what they've done the last couple of years either. They're obviously the best offense that ever since Mahomes has stepped in and become a full time starter there after Alex Smith was gone. So yeah, there just isn't one guy that really stands above the rest. I'm like, yep, I want that guy to be our next head coach. But obviously, there's some names out there to certainly consider. But at this point, I can't say one way or another. Maybe I would have said Brian Dable before today, but then I see they lose 9-6 to the Jaguars. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like
Yikes.
that's horrible. So that's I mean a story for another day we could talk about. But real quick, that AFC, man, I don't know who the best team is there right now. I thought it was honestly Buffalo, but they've not looked good these honestly in the recent weeks, like especially today. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Titans were on top, I think, coming into this week, but now Derrick Henry's out, so it's like, are they really anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking the Rams are really the best team in the NFL. And
Yep.
then outside of the Rams, like you got the Bucks, maybe the Cardinals, but like, yeah, the AFC, like you said, is a complete mess. I don't really know who would come out of the AFC right now. I still, even with how poorly the Chiefs are playing, I still think they have a chance, honestly.
Yeah, I do
Um,
too, because nobody else is running away with it. And I think
exactly.
as long as they get their offense figured out, their defense could be just not good. But at the same time, if their offense is clicking, then that's really all that matters. That's going to take them ways, at least.
And it's really like it's so unfortunate that the Vikings aren't in a position to win the division and make
I
the
know.
playoffs because the
There's going to be some
NFL in
weak teams
general
in the
is
NFC.
just so wide open right now. Like,
It's
yeah,
very competitive.
the Rams and Cardinals, which we were toe to toe with the Cardinals,
Yep.
but the Rams are a really good team. We play them later on this season,
And we
probably at a
do.
point where we're going to be out of it. It won't matter.
Yeah.
But Rams are good. The Bucks are good. But I don't know. Like I feel like if the Vikings were actually in a position where even with this current roster, if they just if they were in a position where they played aggressively, played to win the game, leaned into the offense, I think we'd have a
Mhm.
chance. But this team is so broken right now, fundamentally from the top down, and it obviously trickles into the players too. Like the players are still, they still have to go out there and execute, but they're not being put in positions to succeed. If there's clear tension between players and coaches, which it seems that there is at this point,
Mhm.
I mean, you have Adam Thielen's agent coming out last week and saying, "I've seen enough. I'm going to talk to the coaches or general manager, whoever he said he was going to talk to." Like, I mean, that's bad when you got multiple players, are represented by that agent, and he's tweeting stuff out like that. So, yeah, it's a complete mess, and it's a shame because the Vikings really could just be in a position with a wide open NFL playoff field to make some noise. But of course, they're not in that position right now. So
I can't stand it. Yeah, I'm over it. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I don't really know why today really pushed me over the edge, but maybe it's I was feeling when I woke up today. But I just it's I've seen it over and over and over again, and it's time to see something new that could potentially work actually. So
Yep.
I I just want to know, like, I wish I could narrow down a list as far as names go, like potentially be leading this organization into the future here, but I really don't know because that's part of the reason, like we just got done saying, the NFL is so up for grabs this year, where no teams are standing above the rest too much. So then it's hard to pick specific candidates to be like, hey, that guy's on this really good team. We should probably make him our next head coach when there's not one team standing above the rest. And it's like
Right.
you're taking a little bit more of a gamble. But
Yeah, because you mentioned Eric Bieniemy. I know he doesn't call the plays there in Kansas City, but like it's still concerning that their offense is falling apart.
mhm,
Um, they barely squeaked out a win against the Packers, who didn't have Aaron Rodgers today. So
mhm.
that was an ugly game. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like I've kind of the fact that Bieniemy hasn't really taken a job in the last two off seasons has me a little wary as well. Like just not exactly sure, what's going on there.
Mhm.
And I don't know. Part of me wants like a Kellen Moore who, yeah, he's really young, but you can just that the Dallas players respect him. Clearly, he runs a good offense. He calls the plays. Dallas has the best offense in the NFL, even though they lost to the Broncos today. Like that excites me more than like an Eric Bieniemy who doesn't call the plays. He has Patrick Mahomes on his team. Like that makes me a little more concerned, I guess. So
Yeah,
I've kind of soured on Eric Bieniemy a little bit. But yeah, there's other guys too, like Byron Leftwich is the offensive coordinator in Tampa. I don't know. Does he or Bruce Arians call plays? Is it? I think it's Bruce Arians, isn't it?
I think it's Bruce Arians. Yeah.
Yeah. So he doesn't really call plays either. You got Brian Dable, which yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he'll be the guy or not. I mean, maybe some guys will, and then you got like Lincoln Riley from college, but um, maybe some guys will appear. I don't really know, but yeah, they're going to be looking for somebody, that's for sure. And it needs to be an offensive minded guy because that's not saying the defense has to be bad or they can't focus on the defense, but you got to lean into the offense, especially when you still have the skill players you have here. So,
Exactly.
um,
And I feel like we could find some veteran coach that could run the defense and make it adequate, or at least just decent, not a liability, where it'd be good enough for contention if we have a good offense, which we should, given that hopefully we make the right hire at head coach to uh, really guide this offense into maximizing it to the best it can be. Because I
yep.
really think it can be a top five unit. It's just not being used correctly right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. So let's kind of look into the future a little bit here.
Sure.
I'm kind of springing this on you, but
Sure.
who would you say are the five most important players for the Vikings' future?
Well, I think you got to start with Justin Jefferson, right? Do you agree?
I think you'd have to, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's easily the one that you could see a real long term future with, just because he's in the second year and he's only like 22 or something like that.
Yep.
So I'd say him. And I would also say, I'd say Daniil Hunter still, just because what is he, 25, 26? Like 26
I
maybe?
think he's 27 now.
27 now. Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. All right. But I would still say so, just because all the championship teams have at least one elite edge rusher, I'd say, because I think that's a hallmark of a good team is good pass rush on defense. Even if
Yep.
the rest of it's not great, I feel like it starts with one of those guys. So I think Daniil Hunter, I'd probably put number two on the list. And then I want to say Dalvin,
Okay.
but because I love Dalvin, but at the same time, it's hard to say running back, especially when he's got as much tread on the tires now as
Yeah.
as he has, just because he's been in the league 5 or 6 years now,
5 years now. Yep.
5 years now. Like that's kind of a lot for running back, and obviously, I hate to throw around the term like shelf life and stuff, but like
Right.
running backs, truthfully, it's one of the shortest lifespans in the NFL among any position. So that's that's a little sketchy to uh, say that's one of our most important players in the future. But I mean, he's a dynamic player, and like we've said, he's one of the best at his position in the league. So
Yeah.
hard to discredit him for that. And arguably could be Christian Darrisaw maybe, just because he could be a franchise left tackle, and that's pretty important for a team too.
Yep.
Um, I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah. I would say Jefferson for sure. Um, Daniil Hunter, I would say for sure, but I'm really questioning whether or not he'll even be back,
I really
honestly.
hope he is, but
I hope he is too, but if you bring in a new regime, I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to be willing to pay somebody like that. Darisaw for sure. I would say Brian O'Neill probably for sure as well. Heavy
bookend tackles.
bookend tackles. Um, but yeah, outside of that, it's tough. Like Eric Kendricks is in his upper 20s.
I love EK, but yeah, like you said, he's old. Barr's
Barr
getting
probably
older.
won't be back.
Harrison Smith is getting older too. Obviously, he's still under contract here for another few years, but
He
like,
is, yeah. You could argue maybe like the development of Cam Dantzler, but
maybe.
even like he's such a wild card. You really don't know what you're going to have with him.
Yep.
It's honestly tough to find like 5 players that you can say for sure will be here 3 to 4 years from now.
Yes, and I actually think that goes back to another thing we've talked about before. That's like, how many players have we truly developed in recent years that we've drafted? There really isn't that many, especially defensively. That's just a joke. But
Yeah.
offensively, we at least have Jefferson to show for it, Brian O'Neill, and then maybe Ezra Cleveland left guard, hopefully, and then Darisaw left tackle. Hopefully, he turns into a franchise left tackle. But truthfully, that's why, because like when you start with 5 players that are most important for our future, you think young players. So then, if you're gonna have young players, these are going to be draft picks, and
Yeah.
these draft picks have not been good in recent years. So then it kind of calls into question if you should be keeping your GM around or not. But at this point, I'm certainly cooler on the Spielman front than I've ever been, but I'm still probably on his side more than I'm not, just
Mm-hmm.
because I think making a change at GM, head coach, and probably quarterback that's a lot to do in one off season. But at the same time,
Yeah.
maybe it's warranted. But at this point, I'm probably just more so on getting Zimmer and Kirk out of town and then seeing what Spielman does next. But I don't know. I wouldn't say I'd be totally against moving off of Spielman in certain circumstances, but
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, I have zero idea like who a hot GM candidate would be.
oh
Like
yeah, I know
no,
those ones aren't as prevalent either. Then those
yeah,
aren't like names everybody talks about all the time. But
yeah, and it would be tough to know like how someone would draft and what their philosophy is and stuff like that. But
mhm.
yeah, man, it's so sad. Like, just it feels like 2017 was a lifetime ago when this team was in the NFC Championship game. You have the miracle season with Case Keenum,
Yep.
and I don't get it, man. I don't get how it all changes so fast, but that's the way the NFL is. I mean, if you miss your window at all, which the Vikings are probably out of their window for the last, I'd say they've probably been out of their window since 2018. Like even 2019, yeah, they made the playoffs, but like they weren't a realistic Super Bowl contender.
We
So
were a good team, but yeah, not quite Super Bowl.
they've been out of the window for 3 years now, and Mike Zimmer's still around. Like I mean, it's time, man.
That's a longer leash than most franchises probably allow. So
Yeah,
I think, yeah, it's probably time to take a stab at having another new head coach. Obviously, that could go up in flames. Who knows? But yeah, at least got to try to win a championship. We're not here to be mediocre and have average seasons, so we're not the worst in the league because we want to be the best. I'm not scared of being the worst because if you end up being the worst, then you're going to get some good draft picks and probably take some
exactly.
high quality players. So we can't keep spinning spinning our gears sitting here with these middling records.
And I feel like there's a lot of casual fans out there. I feel like some of my friends are this way as well. Like, why do you care so much about like losing for the long term? Like, we just want to win. Um, it feels good to win, regardless of what the situation is. It's like, yeah, but when you're a diehard fan and you're sick of seeing the losing all the time or the mediocrity all the time, you know that Kirk Cousins is not going to be the one to get you to the promised land. Yes, he's better than what we've had. Don't get me wrong. He's the best quarterback we've had since Culpepper.
Yes,
Um, there's no,
it's not
there's
good
no,
enough.
yeah, there's no questioning that. But yes, it's not good enough. The way today's NFL is, you have to be so good on offense. You have to be decent on defense. You have to be passable, but you have to have outside the box play calling. You have to have a good quarterback who's able to evade the rush,
Yep.
because offensive lines just really aren't that good. Mostly because there's really strong defensive linemen now, strong athletic defensive linemen that can push offensive linemen around. Um, yeah, it's the Vikings are just so far away from what like the typical modern day NFL offense looks like that. And the one exception really is the Bucks with Tom Brady. But they have a good offensive line. He's a smart quarterback and he gets the ball out quick. Like that's a completely different scheme than basically anyone else is running because it's a lot of quick throws. It's a lot of they scheme guys open too. Like it's a lot of getting the ball out of Brady's hands so he doesn't have to stand back there in the pocket and hold it forever. So
Yes, exactly. Can I throw a hypothetical question out here for a second?
yes, absolutely.
So this is crossing platforms here, and probably isn't super relatable, but in my head it makes sense. So would you compare being a true championship contender in the NFL with like by saying that to be a true championship contender, I would say you need a superstar or near superstar quarterback, or at least a really good one on a rookie scale contract. Would you
Yeah.
compare that to the importance of being in like the NBA and having like a top 5 or at least a top 10 player on your team that's going to be able to will you through some really tough situations night in and night out? Like, would
Yeah.
you say that's kind of one and the same? Like, you're not going to win an NBA championship if you have like 5 good players. Like, you need to have at least one great one that's like a superstar in the league. Would you compare that to like NFL team needing that superstar quarterback to be able to win a Super Bowl?
I would, because like you look back at the past Super Bowl winners over the last decade, even. I mean, I can't think of a team besides maybe like the Baltimore Ravens in 2012. Or yeah, that's probably the only team I can think of actually that.
Or the Eagles too. But
Yeah, the Eagles with a backup quarterback. That was kind of a strange year though.
sure.
But like yeah, that can happen every once in a while. But you have a much better chance if it's like the NBA. You have a way better chance if you have that superstar player. The NBA, you really need two superstars, honestly. So,
These days, yeah.
but yeah, that's a great comparison, I think, because yeah, Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He's sometimes great, but he's not elite. He's not a great leader by any means.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get guys fired up. He's not commanding the huddle. I mean, once again today, why are we coming out of the huddle with 5 seconds left on the play clock and having to call a timeout to avoid a delay of game? Give
On
me
the
a break.
on the opening play of a drive, like I get it.
Yes.
If like you're probably thinking
After a
while you're in the
turnover, right?
well, yeah, right after a turnover. It was
Oh,
we were literally right after that bar pick in overtime. Like this is the most important time to be focused and laser locked on what you're doing, and we just have no sort of organization there to the point where it's like we come out of the drive. We're not come out for the drive. We're not even ready to go. Like what is that?
it's unbelievable.
That's piss poor clock management by both our head coach and our starting quarterback. Like that can't happen. That's not the sign of a championship team.
No, absolutely not. And whether it's Clint's fault for not getting the play in fast enough, which Clint should know what he's freaking calling, especially on the first play of a drive.
Yep.
If it's not Kirk relaying the information quick enough to his receivers or his team, I don't know what it is, but it's inexcusable. We're 8 games into the season. Kirk has been here for 4 years. Clint's been around for a couple of years, even though he hasn't been the offensive coordinator. Zimmer has clearly been here for 8 years. Like, enough with this. Like, how can you be so dysfunctional when you have a team full of veterans, full of people that have been in the NFL forever? It's not like this is a Jets team that has a bunch of rookies and a bunch of young players that have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
give me a
That's a
break.
different
All they
story.
do is shoot themselves in the foot. All the penalties. It's insane.
Yes, exactly. The roster talent is there. That's another thing, another realization I really came to today. Like I can poke holes in this roster all day long, talk about our depth, and really talk about how like we either players on our team are pretty good players, like I'd say some of the best at their position in the league, or at least relatively, or they're just like not good at all. Like they're probably below average and just not great to have. They probably shouldn't be starters, I'd say.
Yeah.
So I can do that all day long, but at the same time I feel like we have enough difference makers on this team where we should be winning a lot more games than we have to this point. We should be a lot better than 3-5. So then it's like, well, if it's not the personnel on the team, then what is it? No, then there's no other excuse for it than coaching. So this all
Mhm.
stems back to the coaching. So I am it just makes me so frustrated because it's like we have the team, that was a great comparison you made. It's not like we're the Jets where we have all these rookies that are just getting their feet wet in the NFL. That's a different story. I can see there being disorganization there. Like that's going to happen. We had that
For
happen
sure.
last year. We had a pretty young team, but this year there's no excuse for that. We have a ton of veterans that should be able to get the job done. We just don't, and that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Zimmer was convinced that, oh, we're going to sign Delvin Tomlinson. We're going to pair him with Michael Pierce, and we're going to be able to stuff the run. And we're one of the worst run defenses in the NFL.
Yep.
He signed Patrick Peterson with basically no plan of having like a second corner behind him. And this is what you get. Bashad Breeland gets torched every week, and then he gets up with his loser limp, and he's hurt, and he's worthless. And I like Cam Dancer. I think he can be a good player, but he's been shaky sometimes. And if he's got to be your best corner, then that's an issue right off the bat, obviously. So
Yes.
clearly they just completely, I don't know, they completely missed the mark, I guess, this offseason on what they were shooting for. All the money they spent was on defense. They didn't do anything to improve the offense besides draft Darisaw, which really you could argue Darisaw as a rookie is probably a downgrade from what Riley Reef was
Yeah, I
last
totally
year.
agree.
So really they probably downgraded the offense trying to upgrade the defense, and now neither one is working. Neither one is winning you games,
Yeah. Yep. Bring up a lot of good points there. I'm just at a loss for words at this point. I feel like I've over this last hour, just about an hour. I feel like I've
You've
vomited
emptied the
out.
clip.
Yeah, I've emptied the clip. I vomited out all my thoughts, and there's so many different things that you could talk about, so many different avenues to go down. But it all stems back to the coaching in somehow, some way, and there's got to be a change there. And that'll make for a pretty fun offseason this winter, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. But for now, it's just I don't know. I enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's it's getting to the point now where you look towards the off season. I got my Wild hat on. The Wild are doing well. They're about the only team that knows how to win a game in this town. Um, so I'll be pumping the Wild all winter long. But yeah, even the Timberwolves are struggling now. Of course, it's like, good grief, can we just have somebody outperform expectations for once? It's not illegal to do so. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sick of this crap.
Oh, I know. I always love when one of our teams or a collection of our teams go on these losing streaks, and then after some just kind of deflating defeat, you send a text and you go Loserville, USA.
Until proven otherwise, that's what we are, man. It's so sad. I mean, we have 4 professional sports. We have a Big Ten college football program, Big Ten college basketball program. Um, I mean, give me a break, man. Like, it's not a single one of them can do anything. I mean, I don't understand it. If the Wild were like a legit Stanley Cup contender, which maybe they will be, I don't know, probably not yet, but then I'd be like, okay, all these other teams can suck. I'm going to put all my energy into the Wild. But
Yep.
you can't say a single one of these teams is going to be a championship contender in their respective league.
That's true. That is a great point, actually. I love that you brought that up. I think it doesn't make a huge difference, changes your whole perception of things if you have one team that you're very confident in that is going to be really good and they just come out and do it. And then it's like all the other ones kind of take a back seat because you mostly pay attention to that, even subconsciously maybe, where it's like this team's going to be really good. Then it's like anything else is just gravy. If you get something else from like, let's say the Wild are our team and they're just super good and dominate the NHL, then it's like whenever the Vikings actually do something, that's just like gravy on top. Then it's not a big issue. But when none of the teams perform, you're constantly being let down with all of these losses. Then it starts to mount and you just get frustrated. It's like, what am I even doing here? But
Well, and then it's like now, so like if the Wild go in the tank, the Wolves are like, I don't know. The Wolves have a chance, don't get me wrong. The season's not over by any means, but
oh no.
clearly the roster is not complete. We don't have to dive too deep into it, but then you're waiting until March or April when the Twins start now. It's like, and there's not a lot of hope for the Twins right now, depending what they do this offseason, but
Dude, I just love it when I open up my ESPN articles about all these teams that we have that aren't even playing right now. And it's like the MLB way too early power rankings for 2022. Oh, Minnesota Twins coming at 26, bottom 5 of the league. And then
yikes.
you get Gopher men's basketball, albeit you got this new head coach Ben Johnson coming in. So I have no expectations whatsoever for that in year one. I think any college basketball program is just dog water the first
Yeah,
year with the
for
new
sure.
coach. But at the same time, it's just hilarious when you scroll down, like look at all these experts like Joe Lenardi or whoever from ESPN that's writing about like, oh yeah, this is how the Big Ten is going to finish this year. Just consensus among 5 different analysts. Minnesota, 14th out of 14 in the Big Ten. So it's like, that's pretty cool. Looking forward to that. So
Yep.
I love that. These teams aren't even playing or we're just getting beat down. So, I mean, it's a good time. It's a good time.
Loserville, USA, baby.
We deserve so much better.
We do. Like, we can't just have one. I don't care what sport it is. We can't just have one.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Exactly. I know. It just makes you so disappointed. I don't know, disappointed, frustrated. Kind of depends on the day which one you want to use, but
Yep.
I it just doesn't come around often enough or as much as it should. And like I said, I like you said, I've emptied the clip. I don't know what else to say. I am just so over it. I'm ready to hopefully get something positive going. But like you said, the Wild, they've looked good so far, so that's encouraging. And hopefully
Yeah.
the Wolves turn around. I know what are they, 3-5 now through 8 games?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and they got a tough little road stretch coming up here. I know they played Memphis and Golden State. I'm not exactly sure who else coming up, but it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, I think what was our 7 of our first 8 games are at home, right?
Yep.
And we walked away with a 2-5 record at home out of those 7 home
Yes.
games.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. It's the hallmark of a good team.
Yep. Yeah, we won the one road game, which was at the Milwaukee Bucks, who are the defending champs. So that makes zero sense. But
Yeah, I suppose enough about the Wolves and Wild and stuff. We can circle back to Vikings here to close it. But
yeah,
I,
we got one comment here finally. Actually,
ooh, there we go.
is it time for Zimmer to go? And yeah, I'm guessing he probably didn't see the earlier part of the show, but yeah,
Yeah,
we are both out on Zimmer. It's time for him to go. Clearly, whatever they're doing is not working, and he's not willing to change his philosophy. So, yeah, I think the story's been written on Zimmer here. It's great what he did for this team when he came here in 2014, but everything runs its course in life, and I think that's the case here with Zim.
yep, totally agree. Enjoy the Gong Show that is the rest of the season, Big Gritter, because Zim is him running this team is a disaster at this point. So I think it's not really a matter of when he gets fired. It's not a matter if he gets fired. It's when. So that
Yeah,
could happen the next couple weeks, or I could see this riding out the rest of the year, and then we can him on what was that? What do they call that in the NFL? Black Monday.
Black Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, after the season ends. So I'd probably circle that day on your calendar as well if it's not after that Green Bay game, I'd say.
Another comment I just want to make about Zimmer too, and
Sure.
I've mentioned this before, but he tries to come off as this tough, hard-nosed, defensive, gritty football coach,
Yeah.
and yet he is the most scared, conservative, not willing to trust his players head coach I think I've seen. I mean, there's probably worse in the NFL, don't get me wrong, but I mean, this is how, as a tough minded guy, can you not trust your team to go out there and just, step on the throat of the opponent and put them away? Like,
Yeah.
why play conservative? Why try to bleed clock? And it never works. And then here you are, letting them come back. And then the stress just goes through the roof.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think you're 100% right there. And that's what kind of makes me wonder, too. Like, if he really feels like his job's on the line, he had to win today. Because how about all those trick plays he's pulling out? Like, I think they emptied the bag for that because they had that weird, that fake kneel down where Kirk handed it off at the end of
Yeah.
the first half and it didn't go anywhere. And then we come out on that punt and we fake it where we have Metellus hand the ball off to Wagu. And thankfully he gets the edge because he's fast enough. Otherwise, that could have been
It would have been a
too.
complete disaster.
Oh my god!
Yeah, rather than just like going for it on fourth down, no,
No.
let's do a fake punt handoff, like where he barely gets to the edge because there's no blocking. Like, give me a break. Like, I just don't. As much as we are not big Kirk guys, for the money you're paying him, for how good he's been this season specifically, you have to just trust him. And like Big Gritter's saying here, so much talent is on this team. It's true. Justin Jefferson on a 4th and 3, throw him the freaking ball. Adam Thielen, he's always open. Throw him the ball. It's not hard. I mean, I don't get it, man. It's not rocket science. Like I know we're not football coaches and we're not professional football anything, but
Dude,
it's not hard. You watch other teams do it all the time.
I totally agree. It's ridiculous. You never see this much, or you don't feel like it. I mean, obviously, we don't sit around if we're going to watch other NFL teams. We're not watching the bottom of the barrel kind of squads like we're watching the
No.
better ones. But at the same time, I feel you got to take stock in that and watch what the better teams are doing, try to emulate because what they're doing is certainly not what we're doing. We're putting the ball in, like you were saying at the beginning. We're putting the ball in the hands of guys like Luke Stalker, this tight end we picked up midseason. That's a third stringer, and then we had. Kirk throwing up the sideline to CJ Ham on a big third down the field. And Hammer is high pointing the ball like he's Randy Moss or something. It's just ridiculous. It's seriously, it's laughable at this point.
It is.
It's like, I mean,
because after what was it? Was it it was the Cowboys game? All the passes CJ Ham got.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, why do we keep throwing to CJ Ham? And then today, like, we're throwing a 30-yard bomb to CJ Ham. He's high pointing the football. Meanwhile, Justin Jefferson runs an out route right below him, and he's wide open for a first down. And no, I'm going to throw it to CJ Ham because he's open down the field. Like, if CJ Ham doesn't catch that ball, that's a disaster play. That's a complete disaster.
That looks totally idiotic, especially when you go back and watch the 22, and we're just airing out for hammer time down the field. We got a top 5 receiver literally wide open right underneath him. It's not like he's across the field, not where Kirk's looking. It's literally right in Kirk's vision.
It is.
We're letting it fly. We're letting him go make a play so he can get on Monday Night Football on the pregame show and be like, "You got mossed."
And Big Gritter says, why is he even running a route that far down the field?
Oh,
I have no idea.
That's a great point. Why do we have him running up the sideline like he's one of our wide receivers? Are you serious?
That's actually unbelievable. I didn't. Yeah, like you don't even think about that.
Just to begin with.
Okay, if it's Dalvin Cook, maybe I can understand. He's got some speed, but good grief. CJ Ham, your fullback, and then not to mention the Ravens fullback has a good game too. It was the freaking fullback game. Like, the Vikings are always in the weirdest games, man. None of it makes sense.
No, it doesn't. I mean, this Patrick Ricard dude, he's a former offensive lineman in college, like a 300-pounder. We're letting him do whatever he wants, running these routes, catch these balls, getting all this yak. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, man. It's just wonderful being a Vikings fan, isn't it?
There's something every week. And, like, the announcers, they always seem so shocked every time we come into a game because we always have a different set every week, it feels like. These guys are always like, man, the Vikings find themselves in more close games than anybody in football. And it's like, yeah, if you watch these games every week, like, you wouldn't be surprised how we get there because we come out aggressive, honestly, in the first drive. We score on almost every first drive this season.
Yeah. Yep.
And more times than not, it's almost always been a touchdown now that I think about it. Yep. But then we just take our foot off the gas. So we have a lead until the other team inevitably comes back into it. And at the end of the game, then obviously you're in a close one. And then it's coming down to a one-score game that we keep finding ourselves in because we don't play it more aggressively. And the thing is, we keep having all these conversations about different points, but it all reverts back to the same themes. And that's
you're right.
That's the huge problem here.
Yeah. And you made the comment today that Greg Joseph has already attempted a season's worth of field goal attempts.
Oh, that's ridiculous. When they put up a screen total, it's like, oh, now he's 17-21 on the season kicking field goals. And it's like, I remember seeing kickers on my fantasy football team last year who only made 17 kicks all season. We haven't even played half our games yet. This dude's on pace to make like 34 field goals this year and attempt over 40.
That's ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure, I can't even remember what the NFL record was, but I'm pretty sure he's on pace for that right now. I'd have to really look into it and see, but you should never be setting records for how many attempts your kicker is out there trying to make.
All I can say about Greg Joseph is I honestly hope he's back next year because obviously the Arizona game was terrible. It sucks he missed that kick, but other than that, he's been really solid this season.
Well, yeah, it's weird. He's missed 4 field goal kicks this year, and I think I can remember all 4 of them. He missed the one in Arizona. Or did he miss 2 in Arizona?
He missed an extra point in Arizona, I think.
Oh, that's right. I think he missed – yeah, I think he missed an extra point. I can't remember. For sure, obviously, the game winner. And then he missed a couple in Carolina. I remember that, too.
Yep, and it was windy, and he had to kick, like, long field goals, I think, that game, too.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not against bringing him back going forward. But at the same time, what do you even say?
Yeah. I don't know, man. We're at the point now where we're comforted because it's over. Like,
yep. Yeah. All your emotional investment feels like it's in the rearview mirror now. Now you're just here for what it is.
And that's
show.
That's where I was.
When Zim's canned.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I was last year when we started 1-5. I'm like, well, I don't care anymore. Just suck. Get the draft pick a quarterback, which of course they didn't do. This year, I've resented to the fact that we're not gonna tank for the pick. We're not going to draft a quarterback with a high pick. So we'll be picking mid first round, which is fine. We're not going to make the playoffs. Yeah, that's just where I'm at. We're going to be a below average team, but not bad enough to have a good pick. So yeah, one last comment here. Is the season over? Yes. It's over.
I would say it's over. I still think there's a slim chance you recover, but you have to win probably these next 2 games, and these are gonna be pretty tough ones. LA on the road, going coast to coast after you're just on the East Coast today, and then going and playing Green Bay at home. That's gonna be a tough opponent. So
Yep.
I think that's the only way you save your season is if you win these next 2 and get back to 5-5. Because like we said, coming out of the bye, we optimally want to go 3-1, but if you go 2-2, you're probably still alive then.
Yep.
So if you do win these next 2 games somehow, then sure, I think the season's very much alive then, and you're probably looking at some decent chances to make the playoffs. But the reality of the situation is, like, after we've played these last 2 games, do you really feel like they're going to win these next 2? Probably not. But
yeah, that's a great point. I don't know, man. It's and like you have Daniil Hunter out and Patrick Peterson out. Harrison Smith, they said he's already out for next week. So
yeah,
chalking that one up as an L right now.
yeah.
I don't think we're gonna be able to stop the Chargers. So
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, we'll wrap it there, I guess. It's sad, but it's just the way it is. That's the way of being a Vikings fan. So
it's laughable.
I'm glad we could at least talk about it. But
oh yeah, for sure, love doing this.
We'll come back next week, do another post-game show. Hopefully we can get some more comments, maybe get some people involved as well, jumping in on the stream. So
yes.
But yeah, that'll do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, especially if you're a Minnesota sports fan, and give this video a like if you're just sick of all the crap that the Vikings have been pulling out this year. If you're sick of mediocrity, if you're sick of losing, if you just want one of our 4 major sports teams to finally do something, hit that like button as well. Give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram, and thanks for watching.